First item on our agenda is the 2024 water supply, water demand, and cap update. We'll turn it over to staff.
Good evening, Ty Borowski, Public Works and Utilities Director. Today I'm going to discuss the water supply, our water demand, kind of with the weather patterns we saw this year, and then discuss the Greeley treatment cap and what the projections are looking like over the next few years. So when I discuss water supply and demand, it kind of breaks down into two different dynamics. What we have up in the mountains, mountain precipitation, snowpack and temperature data dictates our share of Colorado Big Thompson water quota and the ditch system yield allocations. More locally, we look at precipitation and temperature over the summer, and that kind of dictates our water demand. So in hot, dry years, more irrigation, more water use, more water demand, and more treatment from Greeley. So looking at our snowpack this year, this little green X behind you, that is kind of where we ended up. So it was, all things considered, a pretty average year. So our CBT quota was set at 70%. That's kind of the most common normal year. And just for a point of reference, one CBT unit is 0.70 acre feet of water. Looking at what we saw over the summer, we definitely saw some abnormally warm temperatures, especially kind of in our county and as we started looking in the mountains. Looking at the precipitation side, basically the east side of the state saw drier precipitation than normal. It's always kind of good to see the mountain ranges in the bluer and green colors. That means they had adequate snowpack. Breaking down our water use, we have in this table kind of our 2024 projected. So this is what our Rick Picard, our water resource engineer, and Justine Schoenbach will be doing kind of here on out. So every year they'll kind of come up with a month-by-month projection of how much potable water we expect to use. Right now, all of this comes from Greeley. And then in that middle category, we could see our actual use. And on the far right is our variance, so how much it differed from our estimates. As you can see in the summary table on the bottom right, we used 36.5 acre feet more water than we projected this year. So year over year, we generally assume that every year we're going to use 2% more water. In the case of this year, we went beyond that because of the dry, hot summer. Looking at 22, 23, and 24 here, basically we're looking at the green line. You could see that we use significantly more water during irrigation season than we saw in 23, which was an abnormally wet year, and then 22, which was kind of our more recent normal year. So our projections for 24 were based off of 22 because 23 was so wet and cool that we knew that was not a normal year to base our water use assumptions off of. So now moving on to 25, kind of what our projections are showing. To really do that, there's a few things to keep in mind. We have our growth, our conservative 2% rate, and then we really need to start kind of taking a peek at what we can expect in terms of drought and climate and weather for the next year. So as you can see, we're kind of skirting into the drought finger that's extending down into Colorado. Looking more closely, you can see our county is mostly within some aspect of being a bit more dry than normal. And looking ahead at 25, these kind of outlooks are put together every year, and they kind of give you a rough guess on what you can expect in terms of temperature and precipitation. And basically what we're seeing is there's no data here that's showing any trend. We're equal chances of drier and wetter, and we're equal chances of warmer or cooler. And so here's kind of where we're hoping to be at in 25. So as you can see, we're going to use another 2%, bringing us from this 26.58 where we were at this year up to 27.12. And what this really matters is looking at the Greeley cap. So we have an established level of treatment that Greeley will provide. We have bought into their system at that level. The second we go over that cap, we basically are paying a system improvement charge to them to lock up that treatment capacity in perpetuity. So in the bottom left here, you can kind of see where we ended up related to under and over the cap. Mr. Mayor, you'll notice this is a little different than the Water and Sewer Board presentation based on what we saw in November and December. But really what it's showing is 26, there's a chance that we end up over the cap. 27, it's very likely. So what that means is when we hit that threshold, when we're over the cap, we then need to buy into Greeley's system using our available cap funds. Here's what that looks like in terms of 27, 28, and 29 potential expenditures. So these are, if our projections of 2% are accurate in 27, 28, and 29, what we will end up paying to Greeley to purchase that additional capacity in the system. This is not cumulative, this is each year. So in 27, at that 55 acre feet over, we'd be looking at 1.7 million. In 28, we're an additional 56.4 acre feet, that's 1.9 million. And then in 2029, we're just over 2 million. And I believe we put a 4% inflationary adjustment on that. So kind of the key takeaways of this presentation, temperature and precipitation are the primary drivers of the year-to-year difference in terms of demand and use and where we end up related to Greeley's cap. 23 was, like I said, that kind of high moisture, lower temperature year, so abnormally low use. 24, we kind of got to that kind of higher scenario with lower moisture and higher temperatures that had additional outdoor water use, and we got closer to that Greeley cap. So funding our cap account, that remains really important. We need to make sure that we can handle the expenditures of buying into Greeley's system. If we use more than the limit we've established with them, we need to continue being proactive when it comes to non-pot irrigation. Every acre foot that we convert or we have on the non-pot system does not get treated by Greeley and does not play into that cap. We have a water conservation program now where we're constantly working to bring demand down, to provide alternatives with landscapes. So I think that's something that the city needs to keep investing in. With the cost of the cap, as you've seen, conservation is a very small investment for the city to see pretty tangible water savings. And then finally, as I think I've mentioned in a previous water district, on an IGA and a water connection to upsize the line that makes its way under the river to connect into our system. As part of the NISP project, there will be a new central welled treatment plant that goes online. We're in kind of preliminary conversations to enter into an agreement with being a partial owner, having a share or paying into it in a certain proportion. So something that engineering staff needs to continue really pushing on and keeping at the top of our list of priorities.